Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 51. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. We're recording tonight, this November 22nd, 2016, and I'm with two excellent panelists who I'm going to introduce you to in just one second. But I just want to let everybody know, if you've never heard the show before, Around the Lens is a live visual journalism roundtable discussion podcast coming to you every week, usually on Mondays. Today it's on Tuesday. Don't ask me why. It just is on Monday. Anyways, next week, Monday, I promise. Tune in, 8 p.m. Eastern. We love your faces, and we got lots of great content. Anyways, let me introduce my panelists this evening. Panelists, I'm going to introduce your names. Please tell the people who you are after I introduce you. Joanna Toro and Shay Horse, go. You first, Joanna.
Hello, my name is Joanna Toro. I am a Colombian documentary photography. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience or where you've been published?
Yes, I have been working as documentary photographer for more than 14 years, and I began my career in Colombia as photojournalist. In 2011, I come to US, and I begin my career only thinking in documentary photography. So in this time in US, I developed my own stories. So yeah, this is me.
Where are you living now in the US?
I am living in New York now.
Okay, great. A good place to be for a documentary photographer, I would think.
Yes. I made some projects in Colombia, but I get a lot of information here about documentary photography also. So kind of both countries give me a lot of information too.
Okay, great. And Shay, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Shay Horse. I'm a documentary photographer based out of New York City. I've been covering conflict in Rio de Janeiro in connection to the World Cup and the Olympics. I was just there this summer covering that. I'm also known for photographing the Black Lives Matter protest and the protests that are happening down in Ferguson after Michael Brown's murder and the verdict case.
Okay. Now we had a really great panel discussion talking about the Olympics, but that was all mostly people who were, inside covering the sports and stuff like that with press and whatnot. But you were pretty much on the outside, right? Kind of covering everything going on outside the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I was pretty much running around all around Rio de Janeiro, everywhere that wasn't the Olympic Village. I didn't really go there too often. I went out there 2 or 3 times because it was like the ass end of nowhere for there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was mostly. Oh, sorry.
No, I was curious. I mean, what was it like covering the Olympics? From your perspective, obviously, did you shoot any of the actual sports, or was it all just strictly protests and sort of street level stuff?
It was all pretty much street level stuff. That's what interests me more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a really different experience. Weirdly enough, the most different experience is that I never got robbed or almost got robbed. Like, to me, Rio was absurdly safe. And every single day of the Olympics, it was a new white person being like, oh my God, these kids robbed me. Well, I would talk to street kids and they would all be like, dude, why would you rob a tourist? The cops will just kill us. Like, that's dumb.
Yeah, that's street justice,
it was weird
right?
Just seeing, well, the funny thing is there with even like favela gang members, even those guys didn't want to touch a European or American tourist. They're like, it's not worth it. They'd rather lead you to safety.
Yeah.
So it was weird seeing that group of people just like focus on like such a weird negative street level thing. That was one of the most weird things for me.
Have you shot outside of like an Olympic Games in the city that was surrounding it, or is this the first time you've kind of done that?
I was there for the World Cup, so I had a similar feeling. The World Cup was crazier because all the fans were based inside the city.
Right.
This was different because most of the fans were located in every spot they thought was like super safe.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, glad to have you on. Probably sounds like a pretty great experience, but let's go ahead and get started with the show. Just so you know, if you're listening or watching, it looks a little bit different. I'm currently in St. Petersburg, Florida, kind of down in this area, kind of visiting some family for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. So getting ready for that, enjoying myself, looking forward to some sweet, sweet Black Friday sales coming up soon at the end of the week here. But ready to get on with the show and tell you guys all about all the great stuff we have going on this week. All right, so let's talk about news. Our first story up is based off a letter that a group of press organizations penned and sent to Trump. You know, obviously, Trump will be the next president. He's our president-elect right now, and he hasn't thought too kindly of the current media that is out there. You know, his personal opinion is that they're sort of rigged and that they're biased and everything like that. So anyways, a lot of media groups put together this open letter to, the president-elect, talking about, the most important thing being a press pool, a clear and open, transparent press pool that is supposed to be with the president, pretty much all the time, just in case a major emergency happens, there can be someone there to document that, primarily to give the American people the opportunity to make sure the president is okay. So what do you guys think of this? What do you think of everything that's happened sort of recently with the election and, the winning of Donald Trump, and kind of what do you think of this overture by the press to him? Do you think he's going to listen? Do you think it's going to make a difference?
I think it's a positive way to confront this election. I think it's a good letter. I agree with that kind of approach for the new president. And processing all these days, I think the best way to confront this new election is a word with a lot of sincerity and kind of positive thinking. So maybe he can listen, and maybe it's not so bad. And we, as journalists, and my case as documentary and social photographer, still working harder for the issues that I care about, that is social photography, minorities, and try to put all the attention more than ever. So I am agree with that letter, and I think it's a good and positive way to face the new president.
Okay, Shay?
Yeah, I mean, I think since we're only just now starting to open up the gambit that's going to be covering the Trump presidency, I guess it's best to go with our best foot forward and try to set ground rules so we can both do what we want. But right. I don't have a lot of, what's the word for it? I don't think there's going to be a lot from Trump's side helping us. I think it's going to be mostly us just fighting for every scrap of news for the next 4 years or so.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that, the press feel that they need to essentially do this. I don't think if, Clinton were to win or had to have won, the press would have needed to feel like they had to write this open letter. It's only because, we have the president that we're going to have that, the press feels the need to do this. And I think it also echoes the sort of ideas and sentiments that were present when the vice president went to see the Hamilton show, where you have a group of people who are, essentially telling, the vice president, hey, don't forget about us. We're still here. We're a bunch of minorities and whatnot, and different varied people who make up America. So make sure to pay attention to us. Like, the fact that we need to tell our elected leaders this type of information is a bit disheartening, I would think. But I mean, yes, the letter is good. I think, it's good that we're doing this. I think it does set a good precedent. But do you think that the administration, this new administration, will listen or care?
I hope that care, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And I am agree with you. If the press have to make this kind of letters because something is happening, and something happened in all this election campaign with the press and Trump, and the way that he used it, but in the same time he rejected as a way to use. It's a kind of game that he plays very well, and very important that press don't play the same game that they play in the election process. I think it's a play that Trump, the president, plays very well, and press leaders have to be wit and intelligent to don't go in play in the same game for the next 4 years. So that's why I think if we focus in the important things, maybe help the atmospheres. Atmosphere, not sure.
Right.
Not yet.
Well, I'm hopeful, and I've seen in reading the letter, it pretty much states the major stuff that has already been talked about with regard to the press pool, and it also mentions being more open to FOIA requests. And we kind of talked about last week on the Mega Show was that the Obama administration wasn't super duper forward on FOIA requests, so I don't think there's going to be much movement in that regard, at least with this presidency, but we'll see. I think Donald Trump has made it pretty clear that he doesn't need the media. If anything, he's going to talk directly to his followers and, be much more of a Twitter, Facebook, social media candidate than really anybody was anticipating. But Shay, do you think that, obviously you're not as optimistic perhaps as either of us are, but, do you think there's any hope there that perhaps we are seeing this through sort of the worst case scenario prism, that it's not going to be as bad? Because they have mentioned, that they do acknowledge that there is an importance to a press pool. Shay. All right. Okay. So it's you and me, Joanna, unless Shay comes back.
Okay.
And any further thoughts on this? Can you give me any sort of feedback, or maybe international experience? Maybe perhaps what was like in Colombia to be a documentary photographer or a photojournalist or a news person. I mean, I'm sure it's a much different environment. Can you talk a little bit about
that? I feel that my experience as photojournalist in Colombia with this kind of president that is called Uribe Vélez. He was also a character. He is a character indeed, and he is also a right person, and he don't like the press. And be a journalist, a photojournalist, was difficult in that time. The media play too much with that kind of characters. One of the medias want to go and play the game, other prefer to be independent. So it's up to you what kind of line you want to take in this situation. Was difficult, a lot of problems to some issues, as for example, meetings with the president was difficult to cover, a lot of problems, permissions, but always the independent media find a way to try to be independent and try to say the better true possible. And of course, the contracts between Obama and Trump, in fact, the media is huge, no? It's like day and night. Obama and the media was very charismatic and very good with the media. Media love Obama in majority. It was not all the media, but a tendency. So with Trump is the opposite. So and maybe not. It's very complicated to me because I am not American. I am a new immigrant here. I only have living here 5 years ago. So my perspective maybe is naive. I'm not sure. But I want to believe that it's a challenge for the media now. And it's a new way to face the way to tell the truth, the information. And maybe this crisis that we see right now is an opportunity to see what is wrong with the media and how we can, as simple photojournalists or documentary photographers or writers or editors, improve the quality of our mission.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously that's been brought up a couple times, where the media sort of missed this, missed the what was going on with regards to the polls, with regard to the silent majority, so to speak, and that, where was our reporting on that and how do we miss that? So that is something that's going to definitely be interesting to see how the media reflects on that, if they change and the way they do anything. Because obviously keeping everything the status quo, perhaps that they're missing something, missing a piece of the story. You bring up the fact that you are an immigrant. Can you talk a little bit about that? Again, does Trump being president worry you at all, or are you, is everything okay with your situation? Are you worried at all about what he's going to do or his policies, or they not affect you?
It affect me. In fact, I cry, and I know that I was not the only person who cried, but I cry. I don't know. I am still processing why I feel so sad. It's like if something was broke. I don't know. And the next day in the subway, I feel a atmosphere of sadness so deeply. So I feel that people feel that something was lost that day. In my point of view, in my sensitive. So yes, I care and a lot. I am worried for my people, yes, because Trump in the election, Trump was very aggressive with Latinos, undocumented people. Maybe is extremely scared about what is going on, and I, in my photography, I used to work with immigration, so it's an issue that I really care, and I am worried for the people who don't have a legal situation or documents, because I don't want to see how families are divided because the mother or the father come here to US without papers, but his son, who is a teenager and is going to school, is American. So relative. So I don't know. I understand also that we have laws and we have some structure, but also I feel that the rejection and stereotype people is correct, is healthy, is intelligent. So putting back all the undocumented people as dangerous or ignorance or something bad is terrible mistake. Divide the society, make more division between races, and it's a waste of time and energy. So I'm cry. I feel worried, but also I want to believe that this crisis can make the people more unit. In the case of my Latinos, maybe the people feel more worry and scared of some fear, but also that fear make them stronger, more unit. The people who don't believe in these divisions maybe are more sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was definitely a strong reaction from a lot of people after the election. Did you cover any of the election, throughout the last year and a half before the election? Did you cover
not
anything?
formally. Just I am not interested in politics as politics, like going and follow Hillary or follow Trump or no. And
you're not interested in like the rallies or the stump speeches and stuff like that.
Yes, but not as formally IB press. No, I used to go, so some of them as public, and my attention is more for the reaction of the people. So I cover in some way the day of the election. Formally, the day of the formally, I cover for the Pacific Press Agency the day of the election in Manhattan and Times Square. Was the only day, but in the process, I just was an inspector. I was working in my Latino documentary issues, so we talk about it, but not going to politics as my practice in any of my projects going with politics. But I am very political.
You are.
Yes, I care.
That's good.
And I like to be informed, and I was sad also with Sanders don't get it.
Yeah.
But
he was an interesting fellow. I don't know, a lot of people are like, oh, Sanders, if he had won, he would have won. I don't know. I mean, it maybe not. It's kind of like it's a tough thing to say. I don't know. I think the outcome may have been different. I don't know if you necessarily would have won, but I mean, obviously, from your work, I can tell that you focus on issues. You focus on trans people, trans Latinas, and one of your, transgender folk. The I Am Hello Kitty. I love that piece, where you're getting inside the masks, all those people at Times Square. That must have been either it was very difficult or very easy for you to get that kind of open access to them.
Was it difficult.
Yeah, they were pretty closed off. They didn't like you in their face.
No. The access to go there was a kind of casualty, because I just arrived to US in that time, 2012. My level of English in that time was terrible. Try to find a job was difficult. My expectation versus reality play a lot, because in Colombia I had a super good position as photographer, working for all the media there, and I begin to work for some Getty global assignment department. So I imagine that if I come to New York, but very easy, it's still the same, but different in other country. No, the reality was completely different. I see myself with a lack of language, with a new, completely cultural business and everything. So I have to begin from zero. And in that time, 2012, I just spent my money, and I decided to continue in US to finish my goals, and the only thing that I thought that I was able to do in that time was find a out of the papers job, and in that journal to find a day job, I find this one, and was very difficult to me the first months. Very, very difficult. Personal feelings, I feel terrible with myself in the first month, because I used to be somebody different. So I begin to play with my identity. It was a completely personal journal of who was supposed to be and how you see yourself. But it's a kind of very interesting play that I have to face. And after some months, I decide to use my camera to show or share my experience. So that decision changed everything. So yeah.
Well, interesting to hear about. Since we got Shay back, for who knows how long. Shay, any last thoughts on the press group and their letter to Trump and just the Trump presidency and media interaction in general? Shay, can you hear me? Shay. Oh my God. All right, Shay. I don't know what's going on with you guys, but we're going to move on to our next topic. If you hear me later on, you can chime in later. So revisiting subjects. So it was a great story on Petapixel, all about a photographer who decided to photograph his subjects from 40 years later. And I wonder if any of you, either of you, had sort of a similar type of experience, or if you thought about going back and covering a topic or a story or a subject from the past. Joanna.
Yes, when I see the link that you share with us, this photographer Chris Ports, I don't know if I say correctly the last name, Ports. I love this project because demands so discipline and hard work, because it's very easy to have kind of no, it's not easy, but okay, the photographer have an iconic picture and then find the subject and take the discipline and the hard work to figure out the permission, the time for the other. So it's very very interesting. And also you can tell when you see the future, the past and the present, más bien, the past and the present picture is like, wow, the time, no? How time hit us or not. And
It was hard.
Yeah, and the pictures that I am looking now and Petapixel link, the picture that make me feel stronger feelings was the picture with the guy playing the little flauta, the homeless that is right, and have a kind of window with toys, and he's playing, and then he sit, but so sad, and wow, it's truly amazing, that picture. And in my personal practice, I used to revisit my subjects, and I have a friendship with some of them. So it's but no to take picture of them, but some of them just, hi, how are you? Merry Christmas, or happy birthday, or is Halloween, come to visit us, or kind of friendship. And I take pictures. With the Hello Kitty project, for example, I revisit my subjects a lot. So with that project, I am shooting that revisit issue. But with other projects that I made as midwives of the Pacific in Colombia, just by email, or sometimes I use my phone to know how they are, but no shooting. So I like to revisit my subjects. I feel it that is a duty, because my way of work is immersed and long term. So that make you that is like a guarantee, maybe. But when it's breaking news, I understand if you can't.
Yeah,
this is different. But in immersing long term projects, whatever you think it or not, you just do it, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've considered revisiting some of my topics, and also some of the characters I've shot in the past. Most recently, I was back in Syracuse a few years ago, and I considered revisiting some of the subjects that I had used for my final project when I was in the military photojournalism program up there. And I almost did it, but in the end kind of chickened out. I don't know. I mean, I could have probably gotten in touch with them. I don't know if I still have all their contact information. I think that's the most difficult thing, is just trying to get in touch with them again and looking to see if you have their cell phone number or their email address or something. Yeah. And I don't know. I thought about doing it, but in the end, I just sort of just didn't feel like doing it. Maybe I'll revisit it again in another 10 years or so and see where they've come. But how about you, Shay? Have you revisited any subjects that you've shot, in the past?
Yeah, that's kind of what my Brazil project turned into be, was going there once a year for 3 years, showing the changes and how the communities are being affected by the World Cup and the oncoming Olympics, depending on what point in the timeline I was. But yeah, it's really interesting revisiting places and seeing how they change over time and how the people change and how the locations change.
During your revisits, was there anything that was like especially surprising or especially like sad, or anything about when you revisited topics or subjects? Any emotionally
yeah, there's two things that were. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just emotional impact. That's what I was looking for. Did you get any emotional impact?
Yeah, watching this river that runs on the north side of Rio called Joana Bay. Watching that become more and more polluted, even over 3 years, was horrible, because you went from seeing it just being a slightly polluted river to a river that just like stunk when you got near it, and that was just a very weird ecological thing to see. That, and seeing how the city tried to change to how do I describe it? Lessen the impact of all the tourists, because they added a bunch of transportation things to Rio for the Olympics that barely worked. So it was weird seeing a city just like scrambling to try to fit all the extra people, and just seeing them like destroy landmarks and things like that just to make space.
Yeah.
We're going to show up one time and then probably never again for a lot of them.
It was, it's definitely interesting because, yeah, I mean, the Olympics, they build these beautiful stadiums and these beautiful places. And then, I've seen photo series, especially of the Chinese stadiums and stuff, and kind of where they've sort of fallen into disrepair or just not being used or being used in different ways. And it's kind of sad, all this infrastructure built for, one occasion, one event. And I mean, the same thing with the World Cup, right? So have you probably haven't been back since the Olympics, but I'm guessing that's probably something you'll cover when you do go back. I'm guessing, the state of these sort of stadiums and infrastructure, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing I'm looking forward to maybe starting in 2017 or 2018, is going back and looking at things that were overlooked in my past project, but I kind of wanted to wait and see how they would be affected by all the things. Because like you said, a lot of the stadiums for these events get used in weird ways. Like in Brazil, one became an open-air prison. There's another one that for a while was weirdly just rented out to like rich people's like kids' birthday parties.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like 100,000 seat stadium, and it's just being used by like maybe 60 people.
Yeah.
So it's just really bizarre ways of using those event dinosaur type buildings in like weird ways, just to try to recoup some of the loss.
Yeah. I'd say, like with most things, nowadays, I don't necessarily revisit subjects so much as I revisit places I've worked. So different bases that I've been stationed at in the past, I'll go to, and, I'll go and visit the office I used to work in and see who's there and kind of see how it's changed. That's sort of the thing that I've been revisiting recently. Again, besides Syracuse, I can't think of too many other times where I've got so totally invested in a subject that I'd want to revisit. But, it is interesting to see how things change. And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I just imagine that maybe the places, in the case of sometimes the places don't change too much. Maybe you change.
Yeah, you change, not the place, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not in the example that our tell us, but because that situation in Colombia we call white elephant, to that big stadiums or stuff like that governments make for 1 or 2 celebration, and then it's nothing. That is something very impressive. But in some places or some people, I don't know, just thought that maybe you change, and the places no. What if?
Speaking of the kind of Brazil and the stadiums and everything, Shay, from your perspective, has the impact of the Olympics been good for Brazil, or has all this sort of rushed infrastructure and everything been detrimental?
I would say detrimental, because a lot of the stuff for the World Cup and the Olympics really only benefits, at best, benefits the rich people. But even for the rich people, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't do anything. Like for Rio, for example, they added this whole above-ground tram line that goes the same place as the metro. It's just above ground, and it barely works. And it's free for now, but the whole trick was the current mayor had it free just so the next guy has to deal with it. It's just them, like, irking responsibilities. They were like, okay, let's make it the next elected official's problem, not this official's problem. So at best, they were just like trying to shove around blame or try to make it look like it'd be useful at one point in time. So yeah, detrimental, I would say.
It's interesting why countries even decide that it's worth it. I mean, why do countries even vie for the Olympics in the first place? What did Brazil think was going to be the, impact of this when they initially, or what was the benefit, do you think, from Brazil's perspective when they initially bid for the games?
Maybe.
Go ahead, Joanna.
No, you go ahead, Joanna.
No. Sorry. For me, that stuff that you were talking to us is surprised me too much, because for somebody like me that have the experience to go to Olympics, believe that for a country and for a community that is huge and improve the economy and making more better or whatever. No, so I am sad to hear that.
Well, I think it does help the economy in the short term, but I think the long-term effects are ultimately not beneficial, right? That's what you're saying, Shay? There might be some short-term gain, but not much, and not very long-lasting.
Well, yeah, it's like even the drink vendors and the people who sell stuff on the streets, they may have a big payday for, like, that week, but then next week and the week after that happens, so, like, even if he makes an insane amount of money, it's not going to last him forever.
Right.
So it's all just short-term gain, and the idea that everyone just looks at Brazil and up tourism.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, for the most part, I think the World Cup and the Olympics were just political plays by the people who were in power at that time, just trying to make Brazil get more on the map.
Sure.
And make it look less like a place people just go do drugs, but places you could go visit with your family.
And then do drugs later.
Disneyland type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, again, it's only been, 6 months since the Olympics. So when you go back to revisit it again, Shay, let us know how the stadiums look, and how the general area is. All right. So, Joanna, was there anything else you'd like to say about revisiting subjects before we move on?
I think for documentary photographers who work social issues, it's a good exercise if you guys are interested in. I think it's a beautiful experience that show you how time come and maybe how you also change, because your first approach to the subject was one, and when you come back, it's another one. So it's a kind of interesting thing to practice. So also, if you don't feel the cold, don't do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go and move on to our last topic this evening. We're talking about gear. Now, we're not talking about any kind of new piece of equipment, but more of a gear-related topic, is that the difference or the advantage of using a crop sensor camera versus a teleconverter. Essentially, are you gaining anything by using a teleconverter that is ultimately going to make your image more blurry, or should you just get a crop camera so you can just essentially zoom in by cropping? What are your all takes on this? Let's start with you, Shay. What do you like better, crop sensor or teleconverter?
I would say teleconverter.
Why?
For me, doing like it's a rarity for me to do like long distance shots like that. I prefer being closer, but for that, I don't mind whatever image quality loss there is. It's a simpler process for me.
You'd rather have the one camera and just slap on a teleconverter when you need it?
Yeah, I would rather have that than like have to try to do the arithmetic in my head of like where to crop, how to crop, and do, some beautiful mind shit. I'd rather just be able to plug and play something.
Well, I mean, it's just, you don't want to deal with the crop factor of having to deal with a smaller sensor lens or camera, right? Or is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Joanna? Do you care about the difference between crop sensors and teleconverters?
To be honest, I used to use converts when I used to work in newspapers, as when I make soccer and stuff like that. I don't like it too much. I don't use to that kind of gear. I use in my nowadays photography at 35 and a 50 and 80. So I don't use too much teleconverts, to be honest. And when I have to need something like that, a crop sensor is not my favorite stuff, but I just not need it nowadays. So it's not something that I am worried about in my photography.
Right. I've had teleconverters since I've had all my camera gear, pretty much. Whenever I had my Canon 5D Mark II and my 3-lens kit for that, I had a teleconverter. Initially, I bought the 2X teleconverter because I was like, oh, wow, double my zoom range. This is great. What could be the possible downside? And then I put it on, and I did this sort of same test as this guy did with the teleconverter on and using just a regular lens. And I saw the blurriness that came from using the 2X teleconverter. So I was like, this is garbage. Why would anybody use this garbage? So I returned the teleconverter, the 2X teleconverter, and just got a 1.4X teleconverter because, one, I didn't want to lose the 2 stops that you lose with a 2X, and 2, I didn't want to have as blurry an image. So obviously, in all perfect cases, get the lens you need, 300, 500, 600, whatever millimeter lens you need. I mean, that's the best thing to do.
Yes, have your lens, the lens that you need. But if you don't have, pues try to use a convert and teleconvert and do your best. But
well, sure, in a pinch, I think they're great. And again, I have a 1.4X, and I would use that if the need arose. And honestly, I mean, I didn't see too big a difference with the image quality from that. I know that there is definitely a slight blurring that goes with it, but I never saw it as like such a huge deal. Again, it's all about the convenience versus quality,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to carry around a crop sensor camera and a full frame camera. I want just full frame glass, full frame sensors.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of cameras do you all use?
I have a Nikon D80.
Okay. That's a
I
full
have
frame?
a 5D.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not Nikon. I'm more Canon.
I am Nikon.
It's okay. I don't blame you for that. Shay, what about you?
Yeah, I have a 5D Mark II. I'm more of a Canon man as well.
Woo! My man.
Go team.
Okay. So again, you said you had the teleconverter, or you don't use it, but you don't have it. Shay.
Oh, I've borrowed teleconverters. I've never owned one myself. I've always just bummed them off of other people if I get in a weird situation where I require one.
Yeah, because I mean, most of your stuff that I've seen, at least I know of, is protest works, right? So I mean, you're in there in the thick of it.
Yeah, normally it's just me with my 50 millimeter 1.4 charging in the battle. So most of the time I don't really have a need to have a teleconverter or a long lens like that.
Okay. So that's your prime lens, your 51.4?
Yeah, that's the main lens I use. Because it was the best, cheapest lens I could get at the time, and it's just like it just feels what's the most natural to me. Like a 50 and sometimes a 35. Those are two lenses that just feel the most in tune with the way I do photography, which is most of the time trying to be as close as possible and trying to be as intimate as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it helps with, running and gunning, and then, of course, the low aperture helps out a lot in the low light situations, which I'm sure you shoot in
Oh yeah, definitely.
for all the night protests. Now, you're using the Mark II. Have you thought about the 3 or the 4?
Yeah, I saw the 3 and the 4. What I'm probably gonna do is do the poor man's game and wait until the 4 comes out and then buy the 3. And then just
4's
be one
out.
step behind for a while.
The 4's out.
Well, I meant like long enough for the 3 to be cheaper.
Oh,
It has to
okay.
be like out where you see every jackass with one, then the 3 gets cheaper. Like once people have a new nerd candy thing to aspire to, then that shoots down.
Sure. Once you're like tripping over 3s.
Once you just see them laying on the street, then I know, oh, it's time to play the poor man game and grab
Yeah,
one.
people are just throwing them out in the trash, pile high, trash can full of Mark IIIs.
Well, yeah, like Betamax tapes when they're like, this is useless, chuck it
Yeah.
over my shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, you can't honestly take pictures with an old camera. That's uncalled
23
for.
megapixels? How dare you?
That's like that's barbaric. I don't even know.
Well, we all know techies who would do that.
Yeah. Well, come on, the new iPhone comes out, and I see somebody with an iPhone that's older. I'm like, how do you even like make phone calls with that thing?
I mean, just go high school bully and slap it out of their hand.
Yeah, pretty much. And then it breaks, and they have an excuse to buy a new phone. There you go.
Well, it's all made out of glass. They have to.
That's right. I want them to make a phone that's like made of like the Fabergé glass, like a Fabergé egg, but it's so beautiful. But like if you touch it, like and you squeeze it too hard, it'll just turn into dust in your hands. But it's beautiful.
Is that the idea behind the Note 7, except they didn't make it pretty?
Well, I think that they put too much C4 inside the Note 7. That was their biggest mistake. They should have scaled back on C4 or not put in C4 at all.
Well, I mean, it's easy to say that after the fact.
Yeah, I know, right? Also, the fuse was kind of pushing their luck, I mean, who puts a fuse sticking out of a phone, really?
And a giant red button. I mean, who would do that?
It is a good defensive weapon, though. If you ever, anybody tries to steal it from you, you can just kind of, send in that remote code and blow it up. It's great.
If you have those ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends, you always buy them a Note 7, just leave it charging at night.
There you go. Yeah. Be like, hey, here's a gift. Don't look at it. Don't look up anything about it on the internet. Just plug it in your.
Just plug it in.
Yeah, just plug it in. It'll be great. You'll get to use it in the morning. All right.
It'll be great.
So some of the things mentioned in this article here, again, not too much of us as being all teleconverter users, but again, some of the things you can look for if you use a crop sensor versus a teleconverter is sharpness, the ISO advantage, of course, you're not losing stops. Autofocus performance is apparently better, and then contrast. So if you have the means, according to this article and this one commenter who is talking about it, get a crop sensor camera if you need that extra push over the teleconverter. But anyways, so that is pretty much our show. Again, we talk about news, topics, and gear on this show.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. So let's go ahead and close up. Now, I did mention to you guys if you had any picks of the week. Now, if you've been following the show for a long time, you know that we do a pick of the week at the end of every show. And it is something that I think is pretty neat. But again, I'm not going to be mandating it from now on. It's something that you as the viewer, as the panelist, is allowed to promote. So again, panelists, do you have anything that you would like to promote? I'm going to take that as a no.
No, okay. I was waiting for you. I want to promote my Instagram account.
Okay, we will let you promote. This is more of like something that isn't tied to you.
Oh.
Like something you found. All right. Don't worry about it. We'll go on and do that in just a minute.
Shay can begin with this with this one?
What's that?
I say if Shay can begin with this answer.
It's okay if you don't have anything. Shay, do you have anything you want to promote outside of yourself?
Not at this time.
All right.
I mean,
Again, don't worry about it. Like I said,
I got you. So you want we promote something that is not related to us?
yeah. If you don't have anything, don't worry about it. Again,
yes. Of course.
Don't worry about it.
We don't have plenty, but I want to tell you one. I want to promote congregation of midwives. Is called Asoparupa, ASOPARUPA, Asoparupa.
I'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you.
Yeah, this is an organization of 85 midwives in the Pacific of Colombia. These women begin little by little and make a beautiful organization where they share ancestral knowledge about African spora about humanicide, way to come to the world. And they get months ago for they are an immaterial and all this heritage. UNESCO give them this immaterial heritage for humanity stuff. So very glad to share with the community who is interested in the African spora. That this association of women are working hard in Pacific coast of Colombia for share the ancestral knowledge. So I can put in a link right
Okay.
now.
Great. Well, I'll make sure to put a link in the show notes, and I want to promote the film called The Circle, which was shot by a DJI Inspire 2. Completely shot by this drone. So go check it out. It's on YouTube. I'll put the link in the show notes. Now, not every shot is flying. There are some shots where they just held the drone and, shot with the camera. But again, it's just amazing what, DJI is doing in the realm of visual space. And again, their cameras on these drones are magnificent. So, all right, if there's nothing else, we're going to move on to our plugs. Joanna, actually, we'll start with you, Shay. What would you like to do to promote yourself? Where can people find more about you?
Yeah, you can.
Shay, you first.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter @HuntedHorse, like a hunted horse, and same thing on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram to see all my adventures in protest or any given dumb idea I'm doing at that moment. So feel free to follow me. Nice.
And Joanna, we can follow you on Instagram. I know that.
Yeah. Instagram account, Joanna Toro. I spell it Joana Toro. Joanna Toro. So, welcome.
Great. Well, I hope you get the huge rush of followers from the Around the Lens army. We have a huge following. Not that huge, but it's okay. It's a great following. Good core people. Anyways, you can follow me personally at djmphoto.com. And of course, everybody, please go to aroundthelens.com. We were going to have Zach on tonight. Potentially, he was going to be on live. It was going to be great. Our first sort of show done together live and in person. But he's stuck, I think, in Ireland, or hopefully he's on a flight back to America or something like that. But anyways, Zach, if you're listening wherever you are, good luck to you, and hopefully we'll have you on next week. So again, that was our show this week. I want to thank our guests, Joanna and Shay, so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you all for listening to Around the Lens. This has been episode 51. I am David J. Murphy, and we're out.